Let's take a look at another scenario, similar to the first, except that we have a surround sound receiver as our audio device. Here we have the equipment set up as per our previous demonstration. We have a Sony projector, an Integra receiver, and our sources. Now we're missing the satellite receiver, but we do have our Blu-ray player, our Apple TV, and our PlayStation. Now you'll notice that the outputs of all of these through HDMI are connecting into the back on inputs of the Integra receiver, and then we have the video out of that feeding to the input HDMI 1 on the Sony projector. For control of these devices, we have the IRX2. The IRX2 has its IR channels connected through IR emitters out to our Blu-ray, our Apple TV, and of course the satellite if that were here. We then have the serial ports coming out to connect to and control the Integra receiver, the Sony projector. Finally, draw attention to the Quad 4 sensor, which in this application is sensing current to the Blu-ray player. And that is connected into the back of the IRX2. For applications of that, I would refer you to the install guide for the Quad 4. Our diagram represents, as before, the equipment and its interconnections. This example is our dedicated home theater. We have the same set of sources as in our first scenario, but a projector instead of a TV and a receiver. Again, we'll examine the input configuration tab of the display device, this time the projector. We are feeding all sources through the receiver, and main zone output of the receiver feeds into the HDMI input of the projector. So let's start by assigning to the projector's HDMI input the main zone of the receiver. Notice that once we have done this, a nested set of the receiver's inputs is presented under the HDMI input. This suggests the need to associate the inputs of the receiver to the source devices, which we will do by selecting the receiver object. Let's assign as follows: KBL and satellite to satellite receiver, and this is a DishNet. And you'll notice that there are a ton of possible devices that we have here. We need our Blu-ray player. That'll connect to our Samsung. And this highlights the importance of us naming these correctly so that we can identify them when we go to make the assignments. Under the DVR, we're going to assign the Apple TV. And under Game Port 1, we will assign our gaming console. Now our audio-video interconnects are complete. We want now to assign serial ports and IR channels. So while we're here, let's assign, as per the diagram, port number 2 to the receiver. Let's go to the projector and assign port number 1. Make sure that you're selecting the correct IRX2, as there's multiple in the project. Now we're going to go to the IRX2 itself to assign the IR channels. Channel 1 will control the satellite. Channel 2 will control the Blu-ray. And Channel 3, the Apple TV. Make sure that you're selecting the one that corresponds to the correct one in the file. Now let's return to the input configuration of the projector. Now we're going to leave the speaker checkbox unchecked as we're using the receiver as our audio device. And as before, we desire to turn on the Blu-ray player when it's selected as a source, so we assign a task to accomplish this to the BD/DVD input of the receiver. Now don't forget to attach a quad sensor and then select the Blu-ray player and make sure that it is enabled and assigned to the correct input or the correct sensor. Finally, after configuring the IRX2 and uploading the file to the controller, we will have completed the implementation of the video widget for this viewing zone.